All right, so at this point, we have our millimeter template, which should look like this. We've got our last name, comma, first name. You've got a dynamic field that should automatically be updating whenever you save your document. You've got a date field that'll also be updating when you save your document, and we have this scale folder here. And all of this is in what we call our model space, which is what we've worked on so far. We know we're in our model space because it says model right here. Now when we click on model space, we can then go to something called paper space, which is basically in this layout one. So we can toggle between model space where we draw things, and then our paper space or layout is basically shows what our document is going to look like once it's printed. And so this is what it's going to print like. So what we want to do is we want to modify this to do a few things. First of all, we want to take all of this template text here, so our first name, last name, everything, and we can do either a Control A, or you can highlight over it this way, you can highlight over it this way, just to make sure that you have everything selected here. I want to make sure that there's no other drawings or anything that you've already drawn in here, so it's nice and blank. And from here, we're going to take this and we're going to cut it. And the shortcut for that is Control X, and that's the same for all Windows and Macintosh applications. So Control X to cut. Now it's all blank. We're then going to go to our layout and we're going to paste it here, and the command for paste is Control V for paste. And I'm just going to click in my corner area right here for pasting it. Now I can already see that there's a problem here, and that's that look how large this is. We have our name in really big, and our paper is really small. So if I were to print this right now, all I will get on my piece of paper is just this bottom part of our name. And if I zoom all the way out, so Z and an E, we can see here's our document really huge, and our piece of paper is right down here really small. So we need to make a few modifications. And the way we do that is we're going to come up here to our AutoCAD A, we're going to go down to print, and then we're going to go to page setup here. And we're just going to modify this layout. So I'm going to click on modify. And what we want to do is we want to first select our printer or plotter. And what we're going to do for now in this class is DWG to PDF. What that's going to do is instead of actually printing it to paper, it's going to create a PDF document that you'll be able to submit. And then for paper size, we want to make sure it says ANSI 8.5 by 11. And if you're looking at your scroll list here, it should be way at the bottom here. And 8.5 by 11 is also known as letter size paper, and it's pretty much standard paper that we use at school. And everything else here is okay except for this section right here. And this is what's causing our template to show up so large. If you recall, our dimensions in our template, I think, are around 250 millimeters wide. But right now we have it set that 1 unit, which in our case would be a millimeter, is equivalent to 1 inch. So instead of 250 millimeters, it's actually showing it to us at 250 inches, which would be a substantial amount of paper. So we want to change this instead of inches. We're going to click on this and we're going to change it to millimeters. And you'll notice when we do that, now we have this oddball dimension here in unit. We're going to go through, select all of that, delete it, and change that to 1. So if you do not have these settings, it will not display correctly. So we want our scale to be 1 millimeter equals 1 unit. We can hit OK here and close here. And now we can see our file here. Our piece of paper and our template is now at least scaled onto our piece of paper. The only thing I want to do now is move it, and this is just to make it more aesthetically pleasing, but I'm going to just roughly eyeball putting this in the center of my page. So a couple guidelines there. So right there, it's in the center of our page. And then everything looks good. I'm going to go back to my model space, which is now blank, and I'm just going to draw a circle here to test it. So here's just a circle. Then I'm going to go to my layout space, and I'll notice my circle isn't there. So what we need to do is we need to create something called a viewport. And to make a viewport, the command for make viewport is just MV is the shortcut for that. So make view. And then we're going to click on this upper corner, and then this is critical. This is a mistake students seem to make quite often. I only want my viewport to extend to the bottom right corner of this inner rectangle. What I don't want is for it to go down here, because that's going to cause whatever my drawing is to go over my name and drawing and date and everything else. And I don't want that. I just want my drawing to end above our, this is what we call our title block. So I'm going to click on this endpoint right here, so just to put my drawing in my inner area here. And looking at this is starting to look good. Now I see my circle, I see my grid, everything looks great. The only thing is I want to make sure that my scale is set to 1:1. And we do that by clicking on our drawing here, and then you can see it's close to 1:1, but not quite. So I'm going to click on this section here. I'm going to go 1:1. You can choose whether you like to have your grid on or off. So I'm going to double click inside my viewport. So now I have this dark bold line that lets me know that I'm now editing inside my viewport. And if I were to say click on my mouse wheel here to pan, you can see that I can move just my circle around. And you can see, if I go outside my viewport, you only see part of the circle. So I want my document to be nicely centered. So my circle's nicely centered, and I don't even like my grid here, and that grid doesn't print anyway. So I'm just going to keep my document just like so. I have my circle positioned in the center. I've got this set to 1:1, and now I'm going to lock it in place. So that way when I go to pan, it's no longer going to move my circle around. So remember before how my circle was moving within my viewport here. Now that's locked into place. When I also go in to change the scale, or when I go to zoom in and out, it's zooming in and out of my paper, but it's not changing the scale of this viewport, and that's what we want. So now our template has been modified, and I'm ready to save it again as my new template. The only thing I want to do is erase this circle, because I don't want that to show up every single time I go to start a new drawing. So at this point, this is what everything should look like. And we're going to go up here to save as, or we can go down here to save as. And then this part is critical. We want to save it as a DWT. And by doing that, it's going to magically locate this mystery location in CAD where it stores all of our templates. And then I'm just going to overwrite our old millimeter template with this new millimeter template. So when I go to save, it's going to confirm that I want to erase it, and I do. And then we want to make sure that this is metric, because we're working with millimeters, so that's metric. And then you can write whatever you want in your class in this description area here. I just put class template, and then everything else here can remain with your default settings. Click OK. And then just for safe measure, just in the event that for some reason this file gets erased, what I like to do is do a file, save as, and I'm going to save this a copy in my frozen or thaw space right here. So by saving a copy of my millimeter template here, in the event that my computer needs to get reformatted for IT, it's going to save a copy of that for me so I don't lose any of my work. So that's basically it. Again, we want to make sure that you have your viewport. Your viewport only extends to the inner side of this rectangle here. We've got our entire template centered on our page, and our template only exists in layout 1. It does not list, is not listed here in our model space. And that's it.